I was born. I was born into an Irish Catholic family. I went to church every Sunday until I was 18. I went to Catholic school from when I was 3 to when I left. So quite a stable upbringing. Yeah, looking back on it, I think actually there was lots of good things to be taken from it. Community, a sense of peace I felt when I was in a church, just away from like normal life. Sense of continuity and stability, which looking back I do actually feel gratitude for. So I'm going to just talk about a few things that led me to where I am now, standing here talking to you. The first thing is, so when I was 21, my dad died of cancer. At the time I was living in Brighton, and I moved back, basically. I just packed my life up and moved back to be with him. And I remember that time, moving back home to the family home. I remember feeling a bit like I'd been on a train being my normal life, and I'd just been sort of kicked off the train. And now I was in this sort of really, like, a small station in the back end of nowhere, where nothing was going on, and like no way to get out of it. So like, it felt like my life had stopped. And at the same time, I felt like encountering someone dying, especially my father. It felt like an initiation into a great mystery, and I felt like during that time the world opened up to me, and I felt a kind of a sort of elation as well as a deep sorrow. And in order to sort of process the grief, I did come across a few books which were Buddhist books, actually. So the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sigyo Rinpoche, and a book called Who Dies by Stephen Levine, who's a Buddhist. Reading those books really helped me to understand what I was feeling, and also to put it into perspective, and to understand that life is impermanent, and life is fragile. And also I learned how to sort of live with pain, emotional pain, through creating a spaciousness around it. So I learned that I could actually carry on with my life as well as feel pain, and carry those two things together, which was very useful. And then after that, I moved to Sweden, went to Stockholm University. I learned the language first, and then went to the university. Had a relationship, played music, those kind of things. And then, so when I was 29, we found out that my mum actually was ill with cancer. And I remember a phone call with her when I was in Stockholm. She rang me up and she asked me to come home. And she'd never asked me to come home before, even though I'd been living all over the place. And so I packed up my stuff, and I left that evening, I think. And I never went back to Sweden. And it reminded me a bit of when my dad died, because I thought I've just left this place where I'd sort of built up a life. But it was no kind of question, really. I just felt like I have to be where, I have to be there, I have to be with them, because so there was no question. So I left Sweden, and I came back to my hometown. And again, it was a similar thing where there was an amazing sense of peace. She lived for 6 weeks, so I was with her for 6 weeks, and then she died. And the last few days of her life, there was an amazing peace around her. And again, I felt this expansion. And again, I sort of felt like I was getting in touch with the great mystery of life. Like the veils of like conditioned reality seemed to sort of get apart, and I sort of felt like I was seeing into something much grander and much more profound. which I felt was a beautiful thing, but also I felt like it was very unfair. I thought, why this can't be right? She can't die. For some reason, I thought that she would grow old, but she didn't, and so the illusion of security was shattered. Any sort of feeling I had that life was controllable, or that things would go a certain way, that we're kind of told in our society, you know, you follow this route and then you get this kind of life and then you're a success. All of that sort of fell apart, and I sort of realised that, the meaning of life in the sense that I'd been sort of force-fed since you know childhood just was completely meaningless. So I spent some time pondering what I was going to do, and I sort of felt like I was only 29, so I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm not going to follow a path which is not me. And so I did spend about a year pondering what I was going to do, and in that time I read spiritual books, and I just, I guess, contemplated life for a year, and then after that I came to a decision, which was that I wanted to make my music, which I'd been doing for my life, you know, since I was 13. I decided that the best use I could make of my life was to make my music a vocation, so to see it as a service to the world, and share it in an authentic way, because I feel like if you do that, then it's actually really helpful, and people do get inspired, and I felt like that would be the best thing I could do, and it would make life sort of worth living, really, more than worth living. It would give me a great purpose. So then I set about a whole journey to do that. So I went to an audition to Trinity Laban. Yes. Yeah. And ended up doing a master's there, master's in jazz performance, and spent some years getting established in the, you know, experimental jazz scene, as it were. And roll on, fast forward, we come to Lost in the World of Music. So I sort of, I got lost in the world of music. Late nights, you know, hanging around. I mean, music traditionally takes place in bars, clubs, and venues where there's a lot of drinking. And I found myself sort of falling into that. And yeah, I feel like I developed an unhealthy relationship to alcohol, where I was using it to feel relaxed, but then also straight after a gig, I was like, got to go and get a drink. So I felt like I was sucked into a lifestyle, basically, that was unhelpful. And the experience of that was that my mind was muddied, my mind was sluggish, and my mind was reactive. So I was at the mercy of my mind, unwieldy, like a small boat in a sort of stormy ocean, just tossed around. And I decided it was unbearable. And I felt like I can't live like this. I don't want to be at the mercy of my mind. I want to be be able to sort of take control and to take control of my mind. So I basically decided, above all else, I wanted clarity. And so what I decided to do was give up alcohol, nicotine and caffeine at the same time. That was a difficult week. I thought I'd get it over and done with. You know. Yes, and the reason why I did it was because I wanted to make a statement to the universe, as I like to call it, that I was serious. I'm serious about changing. I'm serious about wanting something better for myself. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give up these things, and I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to have faith. So I did that, and there was a transition period where I was still playing my gigs, still going to bars, but I was not doing those things. So I felt like it was a slightly lonely place. But I had faith. I thought, the universe will answer me. And I waited for 6 months until it was drawing into New Year's Eve. And I was like, I don't really want to be around a bar kind of atmosphere. And I sort of went online and I Googled winter retreats. Interesting. And booked onto it, second 5 days. And like many of you here, I had no idea what I was booking onto. But turned up, and as soon as I walked into the shrine room, I felt like this is the answer to my question. I felt I'd come home. I felt the Dharma was the truth, resonated with me. The feeling of Sangha was nourishing. And I felt like my life would change dramatically from this time onwards. And I also saw like why my Buddhist talks, and I was like, I'm going to be up there doing my Buddhist talk. It just felt very clear to me that this was going to be the start of a new life, basically. And I'm just going to conclude, tell a few things about how I feel now. So a few years on, I feel number one. I feel it's actually easier for me to connect with music now when I play, because I feel like the mental interference is not so much actually, and so I feel I'm able to connect with music more. Number two, I'm able to enjoy experiences in real time. So I feel like before, like I'd be in an experience, but I'd be so in my head, thinking about things like what's that person thinking of me, and like. Being critical or whatever, and I feel like there's much more just space, and I seem to be able to just enjoy experiences as they're happening, which is pretty nice. And also, finally, I feel like I developed an ability to be very strong and independent from my sort of earlier experiences, which I think is really good. But there comes a point when being mega independent and capable can actually be detrimental to spiritual growth. So what I've learned over time being involved with the LBC is that I'm allowing help, support, and which is actually quite hard for me to do, but I've been able to do it, and that's been amazing. It's been amazing for me to allow and to have that support and friendship. And so in summary, I basically feel like I'm more able to be myself. So thank you very much.